It's the amazing Rico podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
The Mets win a series against the Atlanta Braves. Let me repeat. The Mets win a series against the Atlanta Braves. Very similar, I think, to the shock that New York City still has that the Knicks won an NBA championship. The New York Mets won a series against the Atlanta Braves. How you feeling? Welcome to episode 706 of the Rico Brogan, as we recap the New York Mets, again, winning a series against the Atlanta Braves. And they do it where in 2 out of the 3 games, the offense looks more than functional. The offense actually looked really good. You've got a middle game of this series where the LD offense reared its ugly head. But on Friday night, after an hour-and-a-half rain delay, and then on Sunday afternoon with the city still kind of dealing with the hangover of a Knicks championship, the Mets come out and they score a bunch of runs. And again, they win a series against the Atlanta Braves. Before we get into each game, I think the overview on this homestand is probably, overall kind of a blah feeling. I think when you begin a 6-game homestand and you need to make up as much ground as the Mets are looking to make up, 3-3 doesn't feel good enough. But I say this a lot about that when we go into a homestand or a road trip or a series. Sometimes it's how you finish that's really going to leave you with that aftertaste. Like, you go into a 6-game homestand, you start 4-0, but you lose the last 2 games. You don't feel great about it. Well, in this case, they lost the first 2 games of this homestand, like, as abysmally as they've played most of the games that they've played this season. And so when you begin 0-2, and then you salvage that first series against St. Louis, and then come out and win 2 out of 3 against a franchise that the Mets have had so many issues with over the years, you probably feel better than if I would have told you on Tuesday they're going to go 3-3. Is it good enough? Look, I think what the Mets are doing right now is they're hanging on. They're basically a 500 team. They've been a 500 team for a while. And when you look at the standings, if you're so choosing to look at the standings, you see, at least in a wild card race, they're not completely buried. So from that standpoint, they're hanging around, I guess, with the hope that they can get red hot at some point, because they're going to need to. Eventually a 3-3 homestand is not going to be enough. And I know that there's plenty of people out there right now that say it isn't enough, Evan. I don't care if it's June 13th, June 14th, June 15th, whatever the hell the date is. It's not good enough. Well, they're going to go on the road. They're going to face a struggling Reds team. They're going to face another team they're chasing in the standings. I mean, they're honestly chasing everybody in the standings, but there are realistic chases and non-realistic chases. The Philadelphia Phillies, obviously, as a division rival, that'll be a team they see next weekend. It's a chance to gain ground. Now, as far as what happened this weekend is concerned, let's start with Friday. What was really nice on Friday is that if you went to this game, I'm not sure if you did. I went to this game. I took my wife, took my youngest son. We actually caught a foul ball. I have it right here. We do not catch many foul balls, but a foul ball was acquired on Friday night at Citi Field. There is a story beyond this foul ball that my young 5-year-old Spence would like to tell, but as some of you may know, Spence will hijack the Rico Brogan. And I told him, I said, I will let you tell the story at the end of the episode. So he is not here. He is not going to interrupt with many of the hijinks he loves to do. But at the very end of the podcast, he will discuss the foul ball acquisition that we had on Friday night. And here's the good news. If you're not interested, the episode will already be over. If you are interested, you get a few extra minutes of the Rico. But what was great to see was the offense. I mean, this is still a team that has scored right around 4 runs per game, a little bit under 4 runs per game, at least coming into this series against Atlanta. And you're facing Spencer Strider, a guy who hasn't been the same over the last couple of years. But even when Spencer Strider was good, this was one pitcher the Mets have had great success against. I remember, I think it may have been the first time they ever faced him, and they had success against him. And Spencer Strider basically made the excuse that none of the contact was hard. Like, he excused away anything the Mets did. He could not say that on Friday night because Bo Bichette, who had a wonderful weekend, more on him, obvious as this Rico goes on, hits a bomb of a home run, and he does it on an 0-2 pitch. Juan Soto hit a laser beam. I mean, an absolute laser. I don't know. Is that majestic? I always thought majestic is like high fly balls to right. But Juan Soto's laser beam line drive home run
giving them an early 2-0 lead. It was really encouraging to see the offense go. And after Nolan McLean almost imploded in the second inning, which I'll also get to in a few minutes, how about this Met offense with 2 outs and nobody on, and 8, 9, and 1 coming up, explode? It's nice to see the things that drive us nuts, usually, that happen against the Mets, happen for the Mets. I can't tell you how many times there have been situations in which there's 2 outs and nobody on. It feels like an inning is over. It feels like, okay, good, let's look to the next. And then the bottom of the order very innocently starts off by doing something, and it turns into a big inning. In the bottom of the second inning of Friday night's game, Spencer Strider, who had now retired 4 in a row, little streak after the back-to-back home runs, is ahead of MJ Melendez 1-2. And he leaves one up for MJ, and he lines a double into the right field corner. And even with that, okay, you clear the Luis Torrens spot, if you will, batting ninth. And then Torrens banks one. I think that was off Spencer Strider for an infield hit. And now you give yourself a chance to regain the lead with first and third and 2 men out. And the big mistake that Strider made was he hits Carson Bench and allows the red-hot Bo Bichette to come up and hit a fly ball down the right field line that I think, if you are watching this from the stadium, the 35,000 people that were there, your head is like angled to that right field corner to see, does it have enough? Does it stay fair? Is Mike Yastrzemski going to be able to make a leaping catch? And Citi Field is a great stadium, and I sit right behind home plate in the 300s. I think it's a great seat to watch the game, but there's a few blind spots. And down this right field line, it was very tough to see if this ball was going to get out. And as it got out, slightly past Mike Yastrzemski's attempt at making a great leaping catch, you heard that explosion at Citi Field, that loud crowd pop that we don't hear that often, but we heard it for the 3rd time in 2 innings, and we heard it in a very big spot. I know the second inning doesn't feel like a big spot, but when you think about the way this game was going, you get the 2 runs early. Nolan McLean gives them back. It could have been worse, which I promise I'll get to in a minute. And then you respond with a 2-out rally that gets capped off by a grand slam home run by Bo Bichette. That was a big moment. If this season goes anywhere, I guess it's a big moment. I mean, if they lose 95 games, then is really anything a big moment? We're gonna think back on this season, and outside of having a Rico to remind you, no one will remember anything. But hey, we're in the middle of a season. And when you're in the middle of the season, you have to play it like, hey, you never know what can happen. Because you really don't. You never know what'll happen. But that was a big swing by Bo. It erased the McLean issues from the second inning. And look, I mean, the Mets to score 6 runs in 2 innings, and that off the heels of what happened in the afternoon game against Cincinnati, where they score the 3 runs in the first inning. They didn't do much after that, but 3 runs in the first inning on whatever afternoon that was, I guess Thursday afternoon. And then you come back Friday and you score 6 runs in the first 2 innings. Like, that's 9 runs in 3 early innings over 2 games. That's not something we've seen a lot of. So really good job by the Met offense. They would get another run in the 4th inning when Bichette again came up with guys on base and hit a fly ball to center field that luckily turned into a sacrifice fly. I was surprised MJ Melendez went for it, but MJ was super aggressive, and he was able to score on a sacrifice fly, which gave the Mets the 5th or the 7th run of the game, which luckily was enough because the rest of this game was holding on for dear life. They did not do a great job of beating up J.R. Ritchie and the Atlanta bullpen. But you score 7 runs, you hope it'll be enough. Now let's get to Nolan McLean, because something's off with him. I think that's obvious, and we've talked about that now for a couple of weeks, and it's odd because it feels like they follow a very similar pattern where he gets off to a good start very briefly, gives you a dominant first inning, and you start to believe this is going to be one of those days for Nolan McLean, and then sometimes in the 2nd or 3rd inning, in this case it was the 2nd inning, he just starts to implode. And it's consistently been about command. That's what this whole thing is about. And it's not just walks, obviously. That plays a big role as he walked 4 guys in this start. But it's not having the command of the sweeper that he normally has and falling behind hitters. or even sometimes getting ahead of hitters and having that sweeper hang in the middle of the strike zone and then just get ripped for a 1-2 base hit or an 0-2 base hit, which is exactly what we saw in the second inning after he walked Ozzie Albies. He's ahead of Dom Smith, and Dom's able to bounce one back up the middle for an RBI single, but then he walks Austin Riley, who's had a terrible year, and he gives up a base hit to Mike Yastrzemski. And then probably the worst sequence for Nolan McLean is when he walked Hae-Sung Kim, a guy who's had an awful year, a guy who comes in batting under 100. But we stop right there because in that moment, it's 2-1, or it's 2-2, I should say. They have come back and now tied the game. They have the bases loaded and nobody out, and it's 9-1-2 coming up. And this was a test for Nolan McLean. This is where I do give him some credit, despite him not being able to get through 4 innings. Just stop right there in your mind. The bases are loaded. There's nobody out. It's a 2-2 game. You're facing Austin Wins. And then even if you get him out, you got to go Dubon and Harris the top of the order. And Nolan McLean very calmly strikes out Wins, falls behind Dubon, and I think kind of got lucky by getting him to pop one up to Jared Young at first base. And then he strikes out Michael Harris. And I was stunned. I think most of us were. It felt like this game had a chance to really morph out of control. It's 2-0. Before you could sit down, it's 2-2. And now with bases loaded, nobody out, I was thinking, boy, if they just get out of this down 4-2, I would consider it a victory. But here's where I'm impressed by McLean. And I'll read some of your emails because I know there's a few Met fans that want to send them down or whatever other idea you have. Bases loaded, nobody out. He gets the next 3 guys out. He gives up a 1-out hit in the third to Albies, promptly gets Dom Smith to roll one over, ground into a double play. Issues a leadoff walk in the fourth, gets the next 3 guys out, 2 of them on strikeouts, one of them a 9-pitch at-bat in which he gets Kim to ground out to third base. Like, he did a pretty good job of settling down after the trouble he faced in the second inning. And I think that Carlos Mendoza made a decision that I admit I didn't agree with at the time, which was to take Nolan McLean out. Nolan is at 93 pitches through 4. It is the top of the batting order. And I promise you, my wanting of McLean to stay in this game has nothing to do with getting him a win. The 5-inning win rule is outdated. It's antiquated. It probably should change. I'm a believer that the win, if you still want to have that stat, should be an official scorer's decision. My grandfather always used to think it should have been an official scorer's decision. He hated when vultures would come in, blow a lead, then they'd win, and that guy would get the win. So it ain't a new idea to say wins should be the official scorer's decision, but it should be. And that's not my reasoning for wanting McLean to start the 5th. The reason I wanted McLean to start the 5th is twofold. Number one, I'm trying to get outs for my starters. Like, the Met bullpen has been really, really good. The Met bullpen has, and there's a lot of guys that you're starting to trust in this Met bullpen. It's not even about that. It's that it is unsustainable to go to your bullpen early on a consistent basis. I also believed in McLean. Like, McLean had done enough in getting out of the second, in pitching through the third and fourth, that even though his pitch count was at 93, is it crazy to let him go to 108? I say that because that allows him your average amount of pitches, 15 per inning, to just get through the 5th inning. And keep this in mind. Here's the other reason why I would have kept McLean in this game. He's facing the Brave order for the 3rd time. Okay. How did Mauricio Dubon do the first 2 times? 0 for 2. How did Michael Harris do the first 2 times? 0 for 2. How did Matt Olson do the first 3 times? 0 for 2. So he had pitched well against the top of the order. I would have had somebody warmed up, and if he put a guy on base, yeah, he's out. And based on the way McLean was throwing, I mean, there's a chance he was going to put a guy on base. He wasn't going to get all 3 outs. But I disagreed with that decision by Carlos Mendoza. He goes to Cionel Perez, who gets the first 2 outs, gives up the home run to Matt Olson, and then you saw what the rest of this game was going to be, which is the Met offense gave you everything it could. Bo Bichette drove in 6. Don't expect more. Hold on to this lead. You're up 7-2 in the 5th inning. Can you find a way to get 15 outs without giving up 5 runs? And it wasn't easy. It was not a walk in the park. And it featured something that we haven't seen, which is Devin Williams being asked to get a 4-out save. We had gone over this in a previous Rico, He doesn't pitch 2 innings and rarely is asked to get 4 or 5 outs. But I think you've got to pick your spots. It has to be the right moment. Now, Devin Williams did pitch the day before. So when you figure, is this the right moment or not, it's not like it was coming with 5 or 6 days of rest. It was coming with having pitched the previous day, but having also not pitched a lot before that. But it also came in a scenario where they just didn't have another choice. When you look at the state of this bullpen and how many guys he had used to get to that 8th inning, he had used Perez. Brazaban was just awesome. Maybe the best we've seen of Huascar. Comes in, faces 5 batters, strikes out 4 of them. He was brilliant. I thought for a second he was so good, so dominant, so efficient that Mendy would actually think of keeping him in for the 8th inning. Instead, he plays the lefty-righty game. He goes to Brooks Raley, and unfortunately for Raley, he's been a different guy. He faces 5 batters. 3 of them get on. 2 of them, or actually one of them was a lefty. The other 2 were right-hand hitters, switch hitting right in Albies and a right-hand hitter in Austin Riley. But Raley's the guy who can get lefties or righties out. But unfortunately, around getting 2 outs, he gave up 3 base hits. And that put him, Mendy that is, in a spot after the Austin Riley double to say, all right, it's a 7-4 game. The tying run is at the plate. What do I do? Do I trust Brooks Raley to get one more guy out, the pinch hitter Eli White? Or do I get the matchup in my favor and go to Devin Williams? To me, if Devin's willing to do it, and willing is probably not the right term, if he's able to do it, then he's the guy. You know, Devin Williams has pitched well recently. His ERA is very misleading. He came in with a 5.32 ERA. I think if you've watched him all year, he's been more good than bad. He's had a couple of starts that have completely ruined his ERA. I don't think that ERA is indicative of the way he's pitched, but I thought it was a clear decision to go to him. He got unlucky giving up an infield hit, and then he was able to get that last out against Rowdy Tellez to at least get through the 8th inning. The 9th inning was incredible because, and this is where Devin earned some points. And by points, I guess it's like this imaginary point system in our heads where we decide if we trust somebody or not. Because it's 7-5 in the 9th inning. Much like Ron Darling a day earlier said, hey, this is a really important save against Cincinnati. This is one you can't afford to blow. I kind of felt that way against Atlanta. Now, maybe I'm going to say that a lot the rest of the year because when you're at least coming into this game, 8 games under 500, every game is important. You can't afford to blow games that are winnable. So maybe that's just going to be something we always say, but you're trying to beat the Braves. You're trying to get a second straight win. This is a big deal. And you also got a 5-run lead. Let's not forget that. You're up 7-2 going into the 5th inning, 7-3 going in the 8th inning. You're expected to win. You lose that game, that's a massive disappointment. And after he got the first out on one pitch, Mauricio Dubon gives us like one of the great at-bats you'll ever see. And that is not exaggeration because Mauricio Dubon did not even get it to a full count. But he kept fouling pitch after pitch after pitch off to where it got to a 14-pitch at-bat, and he won the battle by ripping a base hit to right center field. And knowing Devin Williams, like we all do, did you have confidence he was going to respond? Now the tying run's at the plate, and you're facing Michael Harris and Matt Olson. I had horrible visions. I was also wondering if you're Mendy, do you get the bullpen warmed up? Do you start to say, all right, if anything in this Harris at-bat causes me to think that the Dubon at-bat has really gotten to him, should I go to somebody else? Now, who's available? Is Luke Weaver available? Are you going to Duarte in that spot? Is it A.J. Minter? Minter was definitely not available. Do you go to Austin Warren? Like, there were not great options. And I'm not saying there were. It was more, we know Devin Williams can implode. We know he can lose it. He just engaged in a 14-pitch at-bat. If he walked Michael Harris on 4 pitches, I'm getting his ass out the game. But Devin showed a lot of poise. He threw ball 1 to Michael Harris and then comes back and strikes him out. He strikes out Matt Olson after he fouled a few pitches off. And Devin Williams got himself a pretty impressive save. An impressive save because it was a 4-out save. And an impressive save because he gave up a 14-pitch at-bat single to Mauricio Dubon. I feel like lesser things have broken Devin Williams before. Michael from Comac writes, hey, Evan, I'm writing this email while sitting in the 500s heading into the bottom of the 8th inning on Friday night. I'll admit, I thought Devin Williams was going to blow this save when he walked a 205 hitter in Eli White. Didn't walk him, gave up a hit, but close enough. But good on Devin for getting out of it. My biggest takeaway, the back of this Atlanta lineup reminds me of us. Yeesh. Just hoping the Mets close it out so I don't regret sending this email. Hope you and the family enjoyed the game. Well, we did enjoy the game to a degree, and he was able to close it out. I say to a degree because it was fireworks night, and the game started with a 1 hour, 20-minute delay. It started at 8:30. So it's tough to get through it, and it's funny. I've trained my 5-year-old, probably better than even my 9-year-old, to never want to leave a game early. I've told this story that I took him to Knicks twice. Knicks were up by 50, and I'm begging him to leave. And Spence is like, we can't leave. We just can't leave. We just can't leave. So I'm not big on leaving, but I'm also trying to be a reasonable adult. So when a game starts at 8:30, and it's a relatively long game, and now it's past 11, and my son is struggling to keep his eyes open, I offered to him, do you want to leave? And I think it's different than my age growing up with my dad because there was no DVR. Like if me and my dad left early, not that we would ever have, you're not seeing the game. Like you're turning the radio on, I guess, and even then you're missing stuff because, you got to walk to the car, things like that. So I don't know if it's this day and age or maybe I'm just nicer than my dad. I'm just kidding. I appreciate my dad instilling that in me because I never want to leave a game early, and I think about all the moments we would have missed if we left games early. But Spence refused. He said, no, we're not leaving. And then he passed out. So that 9th inning involved a 5-year-old on my lap while he's passed out because he wanted to see fireworks after the game. Then the game ends, and I'm trying to wake him up, and he eventually woke up, and he was like comatose. So when I say had a good time, it depends on your perspective. Overall, it was a good time because they did win. Darby writes, I think Brett Beatty has been terrible. He's swinging at ball four consistently and not making an impact. I understand the smoke for Mark Vientos, and I feel like we've relaxed on Marcus Semien, but why is Brett Beatty okay? I don't think he's an MLB caliber starter. Don't we have enough data to support that? Well, it's funny. In this game, Beatty went 0 for 4. He dropped his average to a terrible 223. And statistically, he has not had a good year. He obviously had a really good Sunday, which we'll get to later. But I want to answer that question. Like, he doesn't get the smoke. We've had a few emailers say, how has he not won the net negative yet? Brett Beatty sucks. I know Hoff has said that. And I think a part of why Beatty has gotten away with not as much vitriol is because he's not as bad. Like, he's not good, and the numbers aren't good. But Mark Vientos has been considerably worse. I think the other thing is, Beatty's good defensively. Like, give this man a lot of credit. He's played third base very well. When he was asked to play second base, he did it very well. In the brief time he played first base, I wouldn't say he did well, but I would say he was probably better than maybe the expectations were. And I also think in Beatty's case, very different than Vientos, there's no clear-cut alternative. I think the Beatty discourse will change a little bit once Francisco Lindor comes back. Michael writes, I think for the future, Nolan McLean should go down to the minors and work on his stuff. You don't know who would come up, but it doesn't matter. It's the best thing for Nolan McLean. Disagree with that. I think he's got to pitch through this at the major league level. Matthew writes, hi, Evan. It's the top of the second inning. There were 2 on and nobody out, and a run has already scored. I hope Nolan McLean can turn this around, but it's already looking like most of his other games. My problem with McLean is that he needs to stop effing around. Sorry for the language. He actually wrote the word. But he doesn't need to throw 7 pitches all over the plate and fool every hitter into a strikeout. Pick 3 pitches, throw those 90% of the time in the strike zone, and if your stuff is good, challenge the hitters and throw it in the zone. So, look, I think the answer on Nolan McLean right now is he's just got to continue to pitch. I know that's not the best answer, may not be the answer you want, but A, there aren't much better options, and B, there are some tiny encouraging things from these starts. I think if Nolan McLean began his Met career in a less dominant way, it would be easier to find those positives. But I think because many Met fans, myself included, I own it, talked him up to such absurd levels that saying, hey, he settled down after there were bases loaded, nobody out in the second, and he got through 4 innings sounds ridiculous because of the way we talked about him. But we have to remind ourselves he's still an incredibly young pitcher who's learning. And this one I had to read because I know a lot of people felt this way. I was at the game Friday night, but John writes, Apple TV stinks. And I got a lot of these Apple TV emails, complaints. It sucks. It's awful. Not as much about Wayne Randazzo, who I think we all like, but more about just the camera angles and what you see, what you didn't see. According to John on the Bichette Grand Slam, I couldn't tell if it went out or was caught as the camera at the last second panned away from behind the third base line. I did see that. That was brutal. And then we have to listen to Chris Sale for the entire inning talk about basically nothing. I know it's part of the future, but can they just show and call the game and stop trying to be too fancy? Rant over, we need a sweep. Well, we didn't get a sweep. We did get 2 out of 3. So when Chris Sale was being interviewed, I was walking towards Kiddie Field. And so I say that because I saw it on the TV. Otherwise, I would have just watched the game from my seat. What bothered me about the Sale interview, and I didn't hear a word of it, was why they have to go double screen and then leave empty space. Like, I want to watch the game. You want to watch the game. So why do we need empty space to show it's MLB Friday night or even Chris Sale's face? We don't need to see Chris Sale's face. I am not against interviews. I'm against interviews when they cut into what I'm actually watching, and what I'm actually watching is the game. When Steve Gelbs, and Steve, I heard what you said, and I like you, but you never heard of the Nets? We're going to play that game. We're going to do this douchey, there's only one team in town shtick. I thought you were better than that. I like you. I thought you were better than that. I expect that from hack writers. I don't expect that from you. It is easy to say the Knicks are the most dominant team in New York. We all know that. They have the most fans. We all know that. But the shtick of, there's the Devils and the Islanders, but in basketball, it's only the Knicks. Okay, so the Devils we can mention, but we don't mention the Nets. Gelbs, I love you. Heard what you said. What was I talking about again? Sorry. Oh, he interviewed John Hamm. Fine. I don't mind interviewing John Hamm. I don't need his face on the screen. Like, just show me the game, and you want to talk to John Hamm about growing up in St. Louis? That's totally fine. I want to watch the game. I tell you what I also did Friday night. I had this incredible frozen drink out of a baseball bat, and then as the game went on and I was sweating and the game was taking a long time, it started late, I found my Mio sparkling sake. I did. So guess what? I celebrated my highlights with Mio sparkling sake. A true crowd pleaser, light, bubbly, and easy to enjoy, whether you're at Citi Field or your favorite spot. Ask for Mio Sparkling Sake by name, a new tradition served chilled, imported from Japan, the official sake of Rico Bronya. Enjoy responsibly. The second game of this series really sucked because it was similar to what we've dealt with all year, which is just a non-competitive offense. There were good things like the way Sean Manaea pitched, but Martin Perez should not be a guy that you can't touch. And they had a few opportunities, not that many. Like, they had one on in the first inning, it went nowhere. One on with 2 out in the third, went nowhere. Leadoff man on in the fourth. Vientos promptly grounds into a double play. 2 outs and a runner on third in the fifth. They did get a 1-out double by Bo Bichette in the sixth. And Mark Vientos shockingly came through with a 2-out RBI single that cut it to 1. And then they had their chance in the ninth inning, and unfortunately, 3 runs was too much to give up. Let me start with the offense, and then we'll get to the good from the pitching. There's just not much there. I mean, Bo Bichette had 2 hits, so he continues to play well in this series. But Francisco Alvarez looked completely lost at the plate. Vientos did bounce into a double play, even though he did get the RBI single in the sixth. Then he comes up in the ninth inning with a big opportunity, and he strikes out against Raisel Iglesias in a spot where, let's be honest, he shouldn't have been hitting. Let's go right there. Mark Vientos shouldn't play a lot. But if he's going to play, it's going to be against the lefty. That's what you're going to do. And I get that. I think we could at least accept that. So he faces the lefty. He gets an RBI single off of Dylan Lee, not the original lefty, but nevertheless, he gets one against the lefty. When he comes up in the ninth inning as the tying run, and Raisel Iglesias is on the mound, why is Vientos hitting? You've got 2 left-handed options on your bench. You have A.J. Ewing, and you have Brett Beatty. And quite frankly, give me either one of them. I do not want Mark Vientos up in that spot. I think that's a huge mistake by Carlos Mendoza. And then after Simeon draws that walk, really good at bat, you get to Francisco Alvarez, who just continues to be an enigma. That's the way to define Alvarez. He's an enigma. We're happy he's back. It's better to have him here than Hayden Senger, but he is so inconsistent offensively. And if he hits the ball on the ground like he did in the ninth inning with 2-1 and 1 out, you saw what could happen, which is an easy 1-4-3 double play. Absolute killer. I wouldn't have pinch hit for Alvarez. That would be a real second guess that I didn't think at the time. But pinch hitting for Mark Vientos was something I thought at the time. Now, in terms of the Juan Soto home run, I cannot spend a lot of time breaking down if the umpires got it right or wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. Very important reason. It didn't matter. It did not matter. Let me remind you, it's 3-1 in the bottom of the ninth inning. Okay? 3-1 in the bottom of the ninth inning. What is the freaking difference between a home run to make it 3-2, ninth inning, or a double in which you're down 3-1? There is no difference. There could even be an argument that you would prefer the double because it's like it keeps the rally going. Now, I don't buy that. I've heard that many times, like the home run is the rally killer. I'm not saying I agree with that. I don't. But my point is, it's the same. So when they're analyzing, is this a home run or not? Did the fan touch it? I kept laughing, saying, I don't care. Like, unless you bet on it or it's a fantasy implication, obviously those things I get. You know, you're facing Juan Soto in fantasy. You have Juan Soto in fantasy. You have Raisel Iglesias in fantasy. You bet an anytime home run by Soto. Like, all that stuff, fine. Completely understand. But when you are just a Met fan and you're just hoping that they rally, what's the difference? So I thought that was a waste of time. I got a bunch of emails that I pulled about this, and I'm even thinking to myself now, I don't care. Does anybody care? I couldn't get over that. I just couldn't get over, like, double, home run. It don't matter. They're in the ninth inning. They need to rally. So they call it a double. Just to give you a quick opinion, I think it was a home run. I didn't see the glove of the fan touch that baseball, so I think it's a home run. And look, Juan Soto going to complain that he hit 37 home runs instead of 38 home runs, or his Hall of Fame plaque's going to say 526 instead of 527. It happens. Mark McGwire had a home run in 1998 that was disallowed because of fan interference. Think about that. And that's a home run you'd think would matter. But this game on Saturday was about the offense. It was just, could not hit Martin Perez, couldn't hit Didier Fuentes, couldn't hit Robert Suarez, Raisel Iglesias. They didn't have a lot of great scoring opportunities. I went through them quickly. And when they did, it was the ninth inning. And Mark Vientos struck out, and at bat he shouldn't have been up in. And Francisco Alvarez bounced into a double play. Speaking of those decisions, Scott writes, having no one to, this is interesting. It's actually a different criticism from Scott. Listen to this one. Having no one to pinch run for Vientos, had he gotten on base, would have left him wide open to a second guess. One thing I wondered about when he decided to let leadoff Ewing instead of Beatty in the eighth and burn two players. Now I'm confused what game he's talking. Oh, we are talking about the same game. Let me set it up for you. In the eighth inning, A.J. Ewing pinch hit for Vidal Brujan and lined out. So I think what he's saying is that he should have used Ewing to pinch run for Vientos in the sixth after he got the RBI single. And then in the eighth inning, you're using someone else to pinch hit like Brett Beatty. I got to be honest with you. I like those. I like the first guess that I wasn't thinking about necessarily. We go back to the sixth inning when Vientos got the RBI hit that made it 2-1. I wasn't thinking about pinch running for Vientos with two outs and a runner on first. And maybe I should have. And I guess the reason I wasn't thinking about it was I thought it was early enough in the game where I'm not acting desperate, where I'm not thinking, let me send up a pinch runner, try to steal second base, try to get a runner in scoring position for Simeon. And now I'm going deep into my bench. Because now I got to get someone to play first base. I guess you could have gone MJ Melendez to move to first base. That would have been an option. Or you're using two pieces and Brett Beatty eventually comes in to play first base. But I wasn't thinking that. So it's a fair thought to put Speed on the base paths for Vientos in the sixth. Then he's out of the game. So then AJ Ewing is the one coming up in the ninth inning against Raisel Iglesias. I think my bigger issue is Vientos should not get that at bat. That was my bigger problem. This email is from Shane in Australia. Can we spend time talking about Francisco Alvarez? The ground into a double play on Saturday was his 11th of the season. Good for joint second in the league on the leaderboard. Combine that with his penchant for swinging and missing at balls inches off the plate, and it puts me in this morally dubious place of wishing he was still on the IL. Just play Luis Torrens. They both got the same numbers of extra base hits, and even though Torrens will never be the home run hitter Alvarez is, at least his at-bats are credible. If we're going to trash Vientos about what a flop he is in key situations, I think it's time to give Alvarez the credit he deserves. Can't run, will never live up to the offensive promise we saw in season one, equals backup catcher, all the best. Well, you got what you wanted. Because in this 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves, Francisco Alvarez did not start game one, did not appear in game one. Luis Torrens got the start. Alvarez did get the start in game two, had a miserable day like we talked about, the 0 for 4 in the double play. And then in the final game of the series, he didn't play either. So I think that the catcher position, and this is something we talked about long before his injury, needs to be like a timeshare. It needs to be who's playing best. And I think you're right that while Alvarez will always have the better offensive potential, Torrens just gives you the more consistently decent at-bats. He's not a better hitter, but he's safer. He can also lay down a bunt, and we know about his defense. I think a part of why Torrens got the start on Sunday was this feeling that he's had more success with Freddie Peralta. But you basically got what you want because Alvarez didn't play in 2 of the 3 games. Mike writes, Evan and Pete, huge fan of the Rico. I know this has probably been discussed, but why do the Mets continue to waste challenges in low-leverage spots? Watching game 2, MJ tried to challenge a clear ball in the 7th, and they were out of challenges. I'm not one to blame Mendy for everything, but how has he let this continue? No, you can blame Mendy. That's okay. You can. You're the manager. And we are now how many months into this season? April, May, half of June. So we are more than 2.5 months into the season. Rules need to be set in terms of when to challenge, the situations you should challenge, and when a challenge is worth it or not. And this team consistently issues dumb challenges. There's no doubt. So that is on Carlos Mendoza. Now, let's get to the 3rd game of this series. We'll continue to mix in more of your emails and, of course, pick the Rico, I'm the man right now, star of the series, and the net negative. What was great about the 3rd game of this series was, again, this offense. Just right from jumping on Bryce Elder. Carson Benz drawing the leadoff walk to start the game. Bo Bichette getting another base hit. And then you've got Juan Soto. I have been critical of Juan Soto bunting. I think it goes back to his 1 year with the Yankees. I had an argument with Sean that he should never be allowed to bunt ever, 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 ever. I can't imagine a circumstance where I'm okay with Juan Soto bunting. And I don't remember his circumstance with the Yankees. I just know that Sean defended him and I did not. This bunt in the 1st inning could have been the dumbest bunt I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of dumb. Look at the teams I root for. But with 2 on and nobody out, and Soto hitting, it's not like Juan is slumping. He had 2 hits in Saturday's game. He had 2 hits in Friday's game, including a laser beam line drive home run and a home run the day before. Juan Soto over the last 3 games is locked in. So how, with 2 on and nobody out, is he bunting? It was egregious. Mendy was asked about it after the game and immediately said, call didn't come from the dugout, and everybody cracked up. It is not funny. And Juan Soto can never do that again. If you are looking 2 outs, nobody on, down by a few runs to just get base runners, fine. I don't love it then because I think you're a bigger threat to just rip a double or just draw a walk anyway. But 2 on and nobody out in the first inning? What? What are we doing? And to make matters worse, it was a shitty bunt. Sorry. I don't curse very often, but I guess bunting by Juan Soto will get that out of me. Now, luckily, Jared Young, RBI single. A.J. Ewing, RBI double. Bad Atlanta defense when Mike Yastrzemski's hitting the wire in left field. Brett Beatty, RBI single, and they turn it into a 4-run first inning. And that's after Freddie Peralta really escaped. Because we talked about McClain wiggling out of his trouble on Friday. Freddie Peralta starts the game by putting the first 3 guys on base. I mean, I'm seeing ghosts at this point. Is Freddie going to even be able to get through the first inning? But he showed great poise. Struck out Albies, got Dom Smith to line out after falling behind, got Austin Riley to pop up. And after that, Freddie was great. He probably could have gone deeper into this game. They pulled him after 5 and fly, 90 pitches. But I think a part of why they pulled him was the comfortable lead. And that may not be a good reason, but I think if it was a closer game, there's a chance Mendy may have said, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. But 5 good innings out of Peralta in which the first inning could have been a disaster. But you see the offense pound Bryce Elder. They get the 4 runs in the first. They get the back-to-back home runs by A.J. Ewing and Marcus Semien in the 5th, in which I thought Michael Harris made that catch. And when he was laying on the ground, I thought he was pulling like a flopper NBA move where he was just going to lay there and then magically say, I got it. I caught it. Fooled you, morons. But good to see Semien go deep, 9th home run of the season. A.J. Ewing had a great day. He was having a tough time offensively in this series. Sat Saturday, but made some really good defensive plays. A 3-hit game for Ewing, the double, the single, the home run, the 2 opportunities to get the cycle. Brett Beatty was on base 4 times, did a really good job. And then Juan Soto, I know you can call it meaningless, but he broke the game open in the 8th inning with the 2-run single. So it was just shockingly a relaxing Sunday, which for the 37 people who are Met fans and also Brooklyn Net fans, you probably needed that. You probably needed a little, something to make you smile after the last couple of days. All right, let me read some of your emails about Game 3, thericob@gmail.com. Adam writes, hey, I'm watching the 3rd game of the Mets series and listening to Keith Hernandez talk about Brett Beatty's Gold Glove playing at third base in the 8th inning, and the Mets are winning 6-1. Hopefully they'll hang on to the lead, which they did. So my question is, when Lindor comes back from the IL, I'd move Bo Bichette to second base, Lindor at short, keep Beatty at third, which gives us our best infield defense. Marcus Semien's lack of offense has also made an error in this game show he can be moved to the bench as a part-time player. He's getting older and needs more rest or games off to rest. I don't think that's what I would do, but I get the point. I think right now you've got to look at the 9 best hitters, and then we could figure out the defense accordingly. So let's assume Lindor does come back. I hate talking about returns because go play rehab games, go show up, and then we'll have the discussion because so much can happen between now and then. But I think right now there's one specific spot in the order that is still up to like interpretation on who should play. And that is DH/left field. It was left field in Sunday's game because Soto DH'd. But for the most part, it's the DH spot. And right now, that spot is being patrolled by MJ Melendez. He's mostly that guy. Against lefties, it's Mark Vientos, which we don't love, but at least he's not an everyday player. So that leads you to say, okay, well, when Lindor is back, it's obvious who the 9 guys are. You pick one of the catchers. Jared Young should continue to play. Semien, Lindor, Bichette, Beatty, Benj, Ewing, Soto. I think we'd agree on that. I think we would agree that when Lindor comes back, assuming no one else gets eliminated, MJ Melendez goes to the bench. It seems pretty straightforward. The question is, who's the DH? Is it Brett Beatty? Is it simply, you know what, Brett, you're going to be the DH? Is it Jared Young and Beatty goes to first base? The real answer is probably Bo Bichette. That's probably the answer. And that's not even a knock on Bo, because I think Bo Bichette was growing as a third baseman. I didn't think he was bad at third base. I thought that was completely overstated. But Brett Beatty is better. It's not about Bo Bichette sucks. I don't think that's the case at all defensively. It's that Brett Beatty is better. So if Brett Beatty is better, then you say Bo Bichette the second. But I think Marcus Simeon's better at second than Bo Bichette. Now, if your argument is Simeon's a bench player, which is what you're saying, are you also saying that you prefer MJ Melendez over Marcus Simeon? Because I don't. Now, maybe Hoff does because he's very pro Melendez and anti Simeon, but I think that it's Melendez as the odd man out, and then it's just a battle of who the DH is. I think it probably pound for pound should be Bo Bichette. I don't think it will be based on the promise they made to him and the amount of money he's making. So I think it's either Jared Young or Brett Beatty, and probably Jared Young. It's probably Brett Beatty. Just, hey, you've been good at third. You were decent in the outfield. You were showing progress at first base. So just go play first base. That's what I think you're looking at more so than, somehow Marcus Simeon being sat down. You know what I mean? Addison writes, great series and always amazing to beat the Braves. But this series to me is probably the most frustrated I've been this season with this team. Coming into the year, this team felt like a small ball, pretty good offensively, pretty good defensively team in contention. Obviously, that hasn't happened. But when you get a series like this to show you this team is capable of being those expectations, but for some reason they just go LD more often than not. So I guess what you're saying is that you're frustrated that they beat the Braves and they should be better than this. That wouldn't frustrate me because there's enough time to be better than this. If you think they're better than the way they've played over 71 games, that's right, we're 10 games short of the halfway mark, there's enough time to change that. Like, no one has suggested that there isn't enough time. It's more, are they good enough? That's been the big question facing this team. So they beat the Braves. Great. I mean, you got to keep winning. You have Cincinnati, who you've already lost a series to. You got to beat them. You got the Phillies, who they haven't seen. You got to beat them. You still have a chance to prove you're better than the way you've played. Pete Hoffman, your label for our YouTube version of the Rico was ridiculous. I don't write the headlines. Hoff's headline for the YouTube portion of the Rico was, the Mets chip away at Braves division lead. Hoff, I love you. Nobody, and I haven't said it yet on the Rico, nor will I. No one's thinking about the division lead. We're thinking, wow, they beat the Braves. They never beat the Braves. We're thinking that. We're thinking they won 2 out of 3. That's great. By the way, Pete Hoffman is not speaking because a generator blew up near his house. So I'm just thankful the Rico is still on the air. So if it gets fixed, we'll pick Hoff's brain later on. Tobias Myers is going to start the first game of the Cincinnati series. Carlos Mendoza made that announcement after the game. Myers had pitched at AAA about a week ago and had thrown, or less than a week ago, I guess 5 days ago, and had pitched 2 1/3 innings. So he isn't still fully stretched out to be a starter. But I figure if he's efficient, he could go 3 innings. And then it's online for David Peterson to essentially come into the game. So I think you're looking at more of a tag team than an opener spot. And the reason and what I look at is a difference between the opener and the tag team. The opener is a guy who pitches an inning, maybe pitches into the second, and then the bulk guy, the starter, comes in. A tag team is when you're looking for as much as you can from multiple guys. And I would think that would be the case in Tobias Myers and David Peterson. Let's pick our Rico on the man right now, star of the series. I got to tell you, I think this one is as straightforward as it's ever been. This was a dominant series by Bo Bichette. We have said a lot of bad things about him, rightfully so. Not as a person, as a player. 2 for 3 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs in game 1. 2 for 4 with a double in game 2. And then 2 for 5 in the finale of this series, scoring 2 more runs. So it was a 6 for 12, 3 extra base hit, 6 RBI series for Bo Bichette. I think he's a runaway winner. It doesn't mean there aren't other notable people that we should give credit to, like Sean Manaea, who threw 6 really good innings. I didn't even mention him. My bad. This is why it's good to do the Rico on the man right now. If I forget something from a game, I could re-bring it up. 6 innings, 2 runs, no walks from Sean Manaea. I mean, other than making a few mistakes to the immortal Eli White, he did a great job and he deserved a better fate than the LD offense doing absolutely nothing. So honorable mention to Sean Manaea, honorable mention to Huascar Brazaban, who pitched twice in this series out of the bullpen, including, I mentioned how great he was in game one. Freddie Peralta delivered 5 good innings. Juan Soto, despite the bunt that drives us nuts, was 6 for 10 with a home run and 3 RBIs. So he was actually on base more than Bo Bichette in this series. 2 for 3 with a home run in game one, 2 for 4 with a double in game two, and then 2 for 3 with the 2 RBI hit late in the game in game three. It's not a knock on Soto because that's a great series. I think probably what puts Bo ahead is the RBIs, the impact of his hits, the lack of impact, I guess, from Juan's 2-run single at the end, even though it still put the game away. And that bunt is bad. That's a tough one to forget. But Marcus Semien kind of had a quiet series, only 2 hits. A.J. Ewing had a real good close to this series. Offensively, it's those 2 guys. It's Bo Bichette and Juan Soto. And then pitching-wise, honorable mentions to, like I mentioned, Devin Williams getting a 4-out save, which cannot be forgotten, Huascar Brazaban, Sean Manaea, and Freddie Peralta. But I think it's clear as day that the Rico, I'm the man right now, star of the series is Bo Bichette, who wins it for just the 2nd time this season. So if you're keeping track at home, Carson Benj has won it 4 times, Juan Soto has won it 3 times, and now you've got Bo Bichette, Nolan McLean, Mark Vientos as 2-time winners. So congratulations to Bo Bichette. The net negative was tricky. I mean, this was a good series, right? And there weren't a lot of guys that you point towards and say that wasn't good enough. I think some would suggest Nolan McLean, but they did win that game, and he did survive. I mean, look, if Mendy pushes him the way I wanted, it could have been a 5-inning, 2-run performance, which feels very different. Brooks Raley wasn't good out of the Met bullpen. You could certainly point towards him. But it's probably game 2 of this series and looking at that LD offensive performance and saying, all right, who do I blame? As much as we love picking on Mark Vientos, and he did bounce into a double play in the 4th, and he did strike out in the 9th inning, he had that RBI single. My vote for the net negative is Francisco Alvarez. And I don't want to say I feel bad, because I don't. Like, I'm glad he's come back. I'm glad he has shown the fight he's always shown to overcome injuries, but I thought his at-bats specifically on Saturday, and that's the only game he played, in fairness, were just horrific. Swung at the first pitch in the 2nd inning, bouncing out. Struck out looking in the 5th inning. Struck out swinging in the 7th, and then obviously bounced into the double play as the Mets are trying to rally in the 9th inning. So I think it's Francisco Alvarez. There aren't a lot of guys that jump out that I would say rival him for this. I mean, there were other guys that were relatively quiet in this series, like MJ Melendez, I guess, but he was 1 for 5. A.J. Ewing ended up finishing strong. Brett Beatty ended up finishing strong. I guess Marcus Semien, who I talked about, was only 2 for 11, but he did hit a home run. Jared Young was pretty quiet at 1 for 10, but I never felt they were the negative of this series. So the official net negative is Francisco Alvarez. And I'm looking at his track record this year. That's the first time he's won it. So congratulations. I hate saying congratulations, but congratulations to Francisco Alvarez. Let me read a few more of your emails as we begin to look ahead. The RicoB@gmail.com. Oh, this is one more about the finale of this series. This is a good one. Scott writes, Evan, I'm mostly a Mendy guy, a.k.a. I've only called for his firing 10 times this year. But the Terrens at-bat in the 5th really bothered me. You hit back-to-back home runs earlier in the inning. Terrens is up with 2 on and nobody out. Obvious bunt spot. Instead, first pitch double play. Chance to put the Braves away. They squandered it. Any inning this LD offense threatens has to be one they capitalize on. No, that's a good call. I'm big on bunting with Terrens. I would have treated him and Sanger very similarly. Plus, he does a good job of getting it down. I think 2 on, nobody out. Top of the order coming up. That's an obvious bunt spot. And luckily, the Mets had already scored 6 runs. And luckily, the bullpen was in the process of shutting the game down. So it turned out not to matter. But I agree with you. Now, let's look ahead. We got 3 games in Cincinnati against the Reds. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say the dreaded tiebreaker term, especially because this is the team the Mets lost the tiebreaker to last year. Look, the Reds are struggling. Ellie De La Cruz is hurt. Their bullpen's a mess. They're 3 games under 500. I am not worried about Cincinnati as being a threat if the Mets ever get hot enough to legitimately be in the wild card race. But I do think it's worth pointing out that tiebreakers matter. They've already dropped it to St. Louis. That's gone. And the Cardinals, if they hang around, keep that in the back of your mind. Cardinals have the edge. They finish with the same record as the Mets. They finish ahead. But as this schedule continues with specifically what they have on this road trip with Cincinnati and Philadelphia and then Chicago and Philadelphia again, the tiebreakers really do matter. So in terms of the Reds, they've lost 2 out of 3. If you win 2 out of 3, at least the tiebreaker would then come down to record inside the division, where, believe it or not, the Mets are 8-8. The Mets have played their best baseball inside the National League East. And they'll get a chance to continue doing that because after Cincinnati, they face the Philadelphia Phillies. So it's going to be Tobias Myers against Chase Burns in the opener. Not easy. We know how good Burns has been. Brady Singer, who's had a terrible year, I assume is going to face Christian Scott. Mendy didn't announce it, but I guess there's a world where Myers goes deep enough and they don't go to David Peterson, and then maybe Peterson pitches the next day. But if they stay in line, you're looking at Scott on Tuesday, Nolan McLean for the Wednesday afternoon game, and then Sean Manaea to pitch Thursday. Real quick about Manaea, he started Saturday. Now, he had not started a game all season long. He's been a bulk guy, and he's been a long reliever. It made perfect sense to start him Saturday just because of the nature of the Atlanta lineup. Like sometimes you start a right-hander like Braziban or Warren, get some of those at-bats against righties, and then you go to Peterson or Manaea because of where it is in the batting order. But when you look at Atlanta and you see Michael Harris and you see Matt Olson, it didn't pay to use him as a bulk arm. We'll see what they decide to do with Philadelphia. I would assume he's going to start too because of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. So I would certainly be under the impression, not that he's a starter now, but that he will start when the lineup makes sense, like when there's lefties towards the top of it. Remember, the Mets have a weird week. So they play 6 out of 7 days. They do have an off day, but the off day is Friday. They play 3 games in Cincinnati, a game on Friday against the Phillies, or Thursday against the Phillies, and an off day Friday, which is bizarre. Has to do with the World Cup. It's weird, but they need an off day to kind of reset the bullpen, to recalibrate a little bit. It's just weird to happen in the middle of the series. So we always like to look ahead and say, here's the goal. I wanted 4-2 on this stand. It's the same thing. Like eventually you've got to add. You've got to cut into it. So Cincinnati's been struggling. I mean, I'd love to sweep them. Can I go nuts and say sweep the freaking Reds? Is that asking too much? And then win 2 out of 3 against the Phillies? And yeah, let me make a quick phone call. I'm going to call my wife, and I'm going to allow Spence out of prison so he can come up and tell his foul ball story because it was interesting. And it involves something that I think is very tricky for any parent. Hey, baby, you can send Spence up to the Rico. Thank you. Thank you. All right, it's a pager. I'll tell you this portion of the story real quick. My wife caught the foul ball. And the way our seats are set up at City is it's 2 and 2. So I have 2 on the aisle. Then there's the aisle. And then there's 2 more. So if I bring both my kids, they're separated. They can't fight. It's actually a great strategy. Plus, they were the only ones available to keep where I sit. So my wife gets the foul ball. And there's another kid begging for the foul ball because they don't realize that this adorable guy, Spence, is with me and my wife. So he was begging for the foul ball. My wife felt bad and tried to make clear, this is my son. So, Spence, welcome to the Rico Bronya.
Hey, fans!
How's it going?
So, Dad, I was trying to get the ball, and Dad blocked me.
Yes, I blocked.
This is the ball.
Yes, this is the ball. He is holding it right now for the YouTube audience. So, yes, I was blocking him. But the reason I was blocking you is because I was protecting you. When the ball was hit, I didn't want the ball to hit you. So I was protecting you from the baseball. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it was right on the bounce, so I should dead it. Like, when it was in the air, I should dead it. It was all right towards me, but I should move over.
Right. So the ball bounces to our aisle, and he couldn't move because I'll let the camera look at us. Because I was protecting him. I was holding him like this. And I was like, no. And you wanted to get the ball. Yeah. Now, when Mama got the ball, what did you think?
I was like, I was going to
But aren't you glad you got the ball? Because she gave it to you.
Yeah.
So now what are you going to do with this foul ball hit off the bat of Austin Riley, pitched by Nolan McLean? What are you going to do with the ball, Spence?
Put it up there.
You want to put it up on the Rico wall?
Yeah.
Wow, I think that's a great decision. All right, so if you watch us on YouTube, we have a ball collection that spells out Rico. So we have to pick the ball we're going to take out, and we're going to add the foul ball. Now, go ahead.
We're going to do Rico Bronya.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, so you want to add to the Rico Bronya 1, 2, 3?
No, Rico Bronya. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. How about LGM? LGM means let's go Mets.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Are you now addicted to foul balls? Do you want to get another foul ball?
I'm not addicted to it.
You're not addicted to it. I'm sorry. That was the wrong word. Do you want to catch another foul ball?
I bet it's Wednesday, though.
The TV show Wednesday? Yeah. One last question. What do you say to people who wear Knicks stuff in front of you?
Boo, Knicks! Boo, Knicks! Boo, Knicks! Boo, Knicks! Boo, Knicks!
Now, can you want to show some class and congratulate the Knicks fans on winning an NBA championship? Very good. That was a good job at it. I know that was tough for you. It was tough for me, too. All right, Spence, thank you very much. Congrats on the foul ball. Give me a big high five. Oh, one last thing. What? How'd you fall asleep in the middle of the game?
Because there was a rain delay. Do you get it?
No, I do get it. I do get it. All right. We appreciate you listening. Oh, one last thing, programming notes. So obviously, we do the Ricos after each series. Sometimes we do some instant reactions. Because they have that off day on Friday, a lot of people have reached out saying, hey, can we have you guys' reaction to the David Stearns press conference? David met the media on Friday. So we will do that on an off-day edition of the Rico. We will listen to all of David Stearns' answers and then respond to it. So for those that want to hear it, we will bring that back for a very special Rico that we will give to you on Friday. But keep it right here. Make sure you're subscribed to the WFAN YouTube page and obviously wherever you download your podcast. And maybe there'll be some instant reactions to the Red Series. What's your last thought, Spence?
Make sure to like and subscribe and comment on this video.
Very good.
Or whatever.
Thank you, pal. I love you. Let's go, Mets! Let's go, Mets! All right, thank you. Thank you for listening to this We Won a Series Against the Braves edition of Rico Bronya.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Bronya podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.